Yeah, yeah. The pod god is back. What's going on, Pa? How you feeling?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm trying. I'm looking forward to the people piling in with us. Been a while. Been a busy week for me. Had my first seed. So it's been.
Congrats.
Yep. That's why we missed last week. Was a little busy. Last week with that. But we back at it for the people because we have important issues that need to be discussed and need to be broke down. So, we back at it like a crack at it. We got a lot of stuff to carry. Backpack it. Oh, my God.
Oh,
Yeah,
snap.
yeah. Oh, don't do that. Don't do that again. Oh, snap. Like, that's what we in
19.
1995
Hey, man.
or maybe 94, 92.
Oh, yep. I'm bringing the golden age back. You know what I mean?
Man, you younger than me. You younger than me. Come on, bro. Hi. But so we got a few things we need to discuss today. I'm gonna call it C and C. So we're gonna CC you CC friends about this show, and CC is also gonna be COVID and Como. That's what the show is gonna be about. You know, um, the reason why I want to talk about Como is it is kind of a critique on the media in general because Cuomo is under all sorts of fire right now, and he been a terrible governor. This is nothing new, but because of these, I guess, sexual harassment allegations and him fudging the COVID numbers with the nursing homes, people listen.
Looks like we lost Paul.
Okay, I don't know what's going on here.
Looks like you looks like you got
Here we go.
disconnected. Yeah. Okay.
All right, I'm good. I'm good. But yeah, what I was saying is the reason why I wanted to talk about Cuomo is because he's been a terrible governor. And because of him fudging the numbers with the nursing homes and his sexual um, harassment allegations, the media just now starting to focus on him. And to me, I got such a big problem with this because as a New York State resident, I can go from the beginning and explain how bad he been. But to be fair, he had a decently high approval rate in New York State. So that's why a lot of attention wasn't brought to it. And that's the other frustration because the media fawns over him. And a lot of people look at politics from not a policy standpoint and how these politicians can actually improve our lives. A lot of it is personality based and almost like a celebrity culture. We gotta stop looking at politics like it's celebrity, like they LeBron, like they Russell Westbrook, Wizards fan.
Right. So guilty
Nah,
as charged. Guilty as
but
charged.
now we gotta stop looking at politics like that.
Yep.
These
Yep.
are real decisions, and he's been such a terrible governor. It's kind of frustrating that it's just now being brought to light. We're gonna get into COVID, but now that I went on this little rant, let me continue on Cuomo. Some people try to describe him as progressive. He's far from progressive. Nothing about this man is progressive. And the reason why they described him like that is because he did a few things in office. He supported gay marriage before it was decided that gay marriage is constitutional. So he got props with that from a lot of people.
Right.
Okay, cool, whatever. But what about support for legalization of marijuana? He's been governor since 2011.
2011. Yeah.
24. It took to 2014 to even get medical marijuana legal in New York State, and recreational marijuana use is still is still not legal. He just joined the
Right.
support about a year ago for
Yeah.
legalizing marijuana. You know, and not even mention his record under the Clinton administration with HUD.
With HUD. Yeah.
Yeah, not to mention his time as Attorney General, not really doing nothing there. Not to mention in '08 when Obama was running, he used like some dog whistles if you can't shuck and jive your way to the presidency before
Oh
he's even
yeah.
governor.
I remember
Like
that. I remember that. Yeah.
he is absolutely terrible. Absolutely a terrible, terrible governor. He actually stymied Democrats in New York State Senate with the
The
independent Democratic.
IDC. Yeah.
Yep, it was him that got them to join caucus with Republicans, going against the wishes of the voters of the state. Now he can't do that because the Democrats, just one of the few states Democrats control the state house, which is the New York State Assembly and the state Senate. So he can't do that no more. They was defeated. But he was responsible for that. Why? Because he didn't want to do certain legislation. He didn't want to deal with health care. He cut Medicaid during a pandemic. The federal government was going to give him free money.
Mm-hmm.
He turned it down because he had this plan to cut Medicaid. And now we know he was fudging the numbers to begin with. He tried to pawn it off. Like, I hate Trump too. And Trump should have been impeached and removed for office. His Cuomo claim is, okay, I did this because I didn't want the federal government to investigate us on false charges, but you just straight up lied.
Mm-hmm.
You should be impeached too. Cuomo need to be removed for office. Letitia James, the Attorney General, is investigating. We'll see. We'll see what she do. I think long terms, I think she's trying to run for governor in the future too. That's
For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll see how she handles this, and we'll go for there. I could go on and on about Cuomo. Do you have anything to add to Cuomo? I know you're not a big fan of his either.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of his. I'm obviously not in New York State, but just reading the tea leaves, seeing the record, right? I mean, the record's right there, and he's a very performative. He's mastered the performative art of politics, right? He appears, sounds confident, competent. He does those press conferences that the media loves. They lionize him. I mean, he did it right when COVID came out, and he was able to just do that contrast with the crazy shit Trump was doing every single day in his briefings. And all, as you mentioned, all the while they were moving people from nursing homes into infected areas, and old people got infected, and a lot of them died, and then they covered up the numbers and they undercounted the numbers, and all that stuff's coming out now. So, and then all the while, we didn't even mention it. He wrote a book about about leadership in a pandemic, and all this other stuff. Larry Hogan too, my governor, a Republican governor of Maryland, also has been on that same tip of promoting leadership, and I think he wrote a book too.
Well, he's trying to run for president.
And he's trying to run for president, and he doesn't have much of a chance in the Republican Party. To be the president, to be the nominee. It's Trump's party. We all know that. And so with Cuomo, I think, unfortunately, these, sexual harassment allegations have been the catalyst to start, putting attention to not only his record, but, his character, because everybody knows he's a bully. Everybody knows he's like blue MAGA Trump, basically, like, same type of personality, like he, with the harassment stuff is the same, the bullying is the same, the watching people on TV and then calling them up afterwards, same thing. And there's no, there's a reason why they were all they were friends. Both their families been chummy all throughout their lives. So I think, hopefully we'll see what happens. I mean, it would be nice to see an impeachment of him in the New York State Assembly and in New York State Senate. I don't think it's going to happen, but he has made a lot of enemies within his own party to that point, and so that could pick up steam. I'm interested also to see if his donors keep on pausing giving to him, because right now I read something in CNBC earlier that they're pausing, donations to him. So that's a big thing.
Well, we'll see. I don't think he's going to get impeached. I hope he does. I hope I'm wrong about that.
Yeah.
What more likely to happen, what been discussion, is that the Assembly and the state Senate might take power away from him, which they should.
They should do. Yeah.
They should have never gave him that much power to begin with. But that's neither here nor there. And the only positive is that I don't know if he can win re-election again with this coming out. I said I think there is still a possibility because he still have name recognition and he's still going to have money.
That's true. And
even if some of his big donors dry up, I'm sure he got a reserve fund right now.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Before this, he basically could have been governor of New York as long as he wanted to be.
Yeah, there's no term limit.
Unfortunately, we got a history of electing bad governors here. Pataki, for some reason, was elected like 3 terms for whatever reason. Pataki was a terrible governor too. Spencer, I had hope for Eliot Spencer. I think he could have been a good governor, but when you're going after the powerful, you can't be hiring escorts.
Right.
It is what it is with that missed opportunity, because if Spencer would have did what I think he would have did as could have did, as governor, if he would have really enacted those progressive positions that I think he wanted to, I think we wouldn't even be talking about Andrew Cuomo right now.
Right.
That gave Cuomo the opportunity to actually run for governor and become governor. Maybe Cuomo would have challenged Gillibrand. Wouldn't even been a Gillibrand really. Maybe he would have been appointed to the Senate instead of Gillibrand, and maybe he would have been a pain in the rear in the Senate instead. I don't know, but
yeah.
So what happens, we got Cuomo, unfortunately, and hopefully for not too much longer. And one thing I admitted is that you mentioned him, the bullying and him calling people that was on TV. A New York State Assemblyman said that Cuomo tried to intimidate him when discussing this nursing home situation. And this is not an isolated incident. Stuff like this happens all the time. We just don't hear about it.
We don't hear about it. Yep.
Yeah. So, and it's the same because New York State, with the advantage Democrats have in the state, it should be so much more progressive. California had its problems, but at least they was able to get marijuana legalized there, or some other progressive policies. New York is severely lacking that. We were able to get bail reform here. We just was able to get that, which was a positive step. Republicans is fighting tooth and nail to overturn that right now in New York State.
Right.
That was a positive. Supposedly we had 4 free tuition-free college here, but there's a lot of loopholes in that, which we'll talk about that some other time. But yeah, we should have had a lot more policies passed here than we did. But hey, hopefully the next governor, hopefully somebody could challenge Cuomo if he decides to run again. And him having the ego he has, even with these scandals, I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to run anyway.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
But hopefully this time we can actually get him out of here.
Hope so, man. Hope so.
All right.
Hope
Now,
so.
that was the first C. Now let's go to the second C. COVID, the COVID relief bill. The official name, American Relief Plan Act of 2021. Doesn't have a real good ring to it, but that's what it's called. That's the version. That's the House version anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it passed the House,
Mm-hmm.
and it has some good things in it, but it's some glaring policy proposals that was left out as well. So what was included? We have the $1,400 direct checks, which was included, and progressives fought for Biden not to cave on that because they was trying to cave on that. Mm-hmm. They fought, and it looks like that's probably will be upheld in the Senate. Do you agree with that?
I think so. There's some moderate Democratic senators who are still trying to pair the eligibility requirements for that. But I don't. But even there's other moderates in Biden. They don't want to touch that. So I think that's going to stay as is.
I do too. And originally they was trying to means test it at 50 to 50,000. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It looks like it's going to stay at 75K. Yeah. 150,000 per couple. Look like that's going to stay the same. Positive. Yeah. But what else was included? You have the unemployment benefits will be extended till August, and the House version is $400. But in the Senate, what do you think about this? Manchin on this particular proposal is fighting to reduce it to $300 a week. And of course, the Republicans, it's not even worth talking about what they're doing. But the argument is that some people will be making more on unemployment than they were their regular job. So what you think about that proposal? You think will actually get changed in the Senate?
I mean, Ron Wyden is the chair of the Finance Committee. That supplement is sort of his baby. I don't think he's going to let that go down to 300. I think they're going to keep it at 400. But the weird thing is, it seems like Manchin and a couple of these other senators wanting to pare it down. They want to pare it down and then use that savings, as you will, for like rural broadband or something like that. And I don't think that makes sense. I think if you're going to pare something down for rural broadband, I think what I'm seeing is they're saying that the state and local aid, the $350 billion pot, they could take, $20 billion or $30 billion from that to do, the broadband component that they're talking about. So I think I don't think that will get changed, but I think last minute they're trying to do that. And, Biden doesn't seem like Biden wants to do that. Chris Coons said he's not going to do that. So whatever Chris Coons is saying, Biden is speaking through Chris Coons apparently. So that's basically what it is. So I don't think they're gonna change that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if Manchin really was concerned about rural areas, he can join Clyburn proposal. The 10-20-30
plan?
Plan, which target areas of the country that been in poverty for 10, 20, 30 years. That would help a lot of rural areas.
Yeah.
I haven't heard Manchin discuss that at all. So
nope. I think Manchin, he's another guy who's a very performative politician, and he's got this shtick of playing both sides, and but he's going to vote for it. The crazy thing is, at the end of the day, he's going to vote for it.
Right.
I don't think him or some of these other senators have the balls to stand there as the only Democrat that votes against it and sinks Biden's chief agenda item. I just don't see it.
Right. And you notice they putting the majority of pressure on Manchin. They don't even mention Sinema. I think everybody know that Sinema is just blowing hot air.
No, she's clout chasing. Yeah, she stays doing that. And if you look at her record, her 2 years in the Senate so far, you can't really count. You can't really like see a place where she broke apart from her party. So,
yeah. So also in the House bill, you have relief for state and local governments. I don't see how they remove that. I think
I don't
that's
think so.
one of the least controversial parts of the bill, so that should stay in there. Also, it looks like the child tax credit extension is going to be in this bill. The way they doing it is interesting. It looks like, for those of you who don't know, I was actually featured on ABC News talking about this, the child tax credit, and it will help out a lot of people. So basically, if you had a child 6 and under, you will receive about $300 a month. And if you have a child over the age of 6, I think it goes down to about 250 or 200. And the current child tax credit is at 2,000. This actually raises it by a significant amount. Instead of just getting it at the end of the year during tax time, they will give you the money per month. And basically, that per month payment in the House version will start in July, and they'll pay you, I think, a lump sum of the rest of the money from January this year to July. That's the way. That's the way I read it. Did you hear anything different?
No, that's the way I read it as well.
Okay.
And people, and I don't think the media is talking about it a lot, but it's kind of wild. But a lot of people are going to get a lot of money in the next few months. And it's going to kind of be a surprise to a lot of people, because I think the bill is popular, but I don't think the Biden administration or the Democrats in general have really begun selling this package, even as
That's the
popular as it
main
is.
part they should be selling.
That's a crazy thing to me. It's like, yeah, that is the main part, and that's something that historically conservatives have been big on. Child tax credits, because they want to promote the building of families.
Right.
The fact that the conservatives are very silent. I mean, it's just amazing that the conservatives, they don't even have any criticisms of the bill itself.
Romney actually proposed his own version.
And he proposed his own version of it too.
Romney's version actually was more money.
It's more money.
Yeah,
but it'll cut other government services. Yeah, but that's the crazy thing. They're just talking about cancel culture and and all this other stuff. It's wild to me.
Yeah. So that proposal, Democrats is always bad at marketing. That's the other thing. But anyway,
right.
That's that's probably the best part of the bill. Even though I have some questions on it. Number one, I think it's a mistake to only do it for a year.
Oh yeah,
that's the part I didn't like. So it'll get revised, or it expires in a year. Also, they said they will be going off of, I believe, 2019 and 2020 tax returns. My question is, for somebody like me, that just had a kid, and I'm going to be able to get it. And more importantly, because yes, it's a little bit selfish, and I do want my family to get it, but thankfully, me and my wife, we not rich by any means, but we are surviving. Let's put it like that. We are okay. We both have jobs,
right?
Work, but having a new kid and child care and all that is going to add added expenses. But I'm more concerned about other people that are in a worse situation than me and my wife, that just had a kid in this year,
Right. Actually,
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, did you do your taxes yet?
No.
Okay, so I think based on, because my brother just did his taxes the other day, and so he didn't get his stimulus checks back in the spring and the $600 one. So there was a question by the IRS on about credits, right? I forgot that I haven't done my taxes yet either, but there was apparently a question about that. So there could be an opportunity for you to claim, since your child was just born and you haven't done your taxes, to claim your child this year, and then perhaps when this bill passes in a couple, whenever the bill will pass, right? Probably before you do your tax returns, then that data will, because I think the IRS is going to be administering the payments.
Oh,
So
that's
I think maybe there will be a window for perhaps your family to get it. But your point is obviously a big one, because there is that administrative blind spot,
right.
that definitely will leave people out.
Right. And I don't know. Hopefully that is the case because I don't because I'm not quite sure how it works. Because I thought that claiming a child this year you wouldn't actually get that credit until 2022 normally, but
Right.
hopefully that's not the case. And it's so hard because, like you said, people's not covering it like they should. My small, and I mean small outlet, been probably the biggest station. I won't say big station, but I probably talked about this more than probably any other outlet. It haven't been a lot of information, so I don't have clarity on that specific part of the bill. And like I said, if you're already in a struggling situation and you just had a kid, you're definitely going to need that help. So hopefully people that are having children this year able to receive that credit. And that was the blind spot with some of the COVID relief checks last time. If you're going off of, and that's why also the proposal to make it even more mean tested than it already was problematic, because if you're going off a tax return from 2019 or 2020, a lot of people's in different situations. People don't lost their jobs, businesses have suffered. You're working off of old data.
Exactly.
So, but but overall that's positive. Like I said, the Democrats need to be hammering that part of the bill. Definitely, because I think that is extremely popular. It'll be extremely popular. And there's almost no talk of it.
Exactly.
All right. So those were the positives that was in the bill. Do you have any other positives that passed in the bill that I'm leaving out?
Let's see. I think a decent one will be the ACA subsidies, but again, those are not permanent either.
Right.
And apparently, you might get taxed on those too, which is a negative. But that is like a big part of the Democrats' priority in terms of quote unquote building on Obamacare, as they always say, which is something that they should have did in 2009 and 2010 when they had their majorities. And they, as we know, they could have passed the public option through reconciliation. They didn't do it, but yeah, those subsidies will help a lot of people. I read some analysis saying something like 58-year-old who's paying $1,000 in premiums could have her costs go down about $600 or $700, which is a big deal. On those exchanges. What else? Let's see. They also had there was another thing that was there that we talked about child tax credits, we talked about stimulus checks, talked about UI. Let's see. Healthcare, talked about that. Yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, they have basically all the other priorities that they passed in the CARES Act that were good. They have they have money for restaurants. So there was the Restaurant Act that was in Congress that didn't pass, but it looks like a lot of that's being incorporated there. I think it's like 25 or 30 billion dollars. I don't know if they're putting more money into the PPP program, but I did see Biden has like some rule for the next week or two where if you have less than 20 employees, those are the only companies right now that can apply for PPP, which is an interesting idea. I don't know if that's the best way to do it, but I understand what they're trying to do. Trying to get the mom and pop small shops, to have the priority of the money that's left.
Right.
But yeah, I think those are sort of the bright spots on my
Yeah.
end.
Now, let's talk about what was left out. You mentioned the public option.
Yep.
No. Now, what's been interesting is I think progressives missed the opportunity with this. Progressives in Congress. Biden campaigned on a public option.
Yep.
Now, a public option was part of his healthcare plan,
Yep.
along with the subsidies and building on the ACA. Part of building on the ACA was a public option.
Yep.
Now, I understand progressives want Medicare for all.
Yep.
But even with Medicare for all, even in Bernie's plan, a public option was basically a bridge to not full Medicare for all, even in Bernie's plan.
Right.
Can you answer this for me, Fly? Why wouldn't progressives try to put public option in the bill? Also, while everybody was talking about the force to vote, which would do absolutely nothing because it wouldn't have passed.
Right.
We could have used Biden words in a campaign against them and try to force the issue with a public option. How come nobody in Congress did that?
It's a great question. I think it's interesting because I think Biden coming out with that 1.9 trillion plan before the inauguration, before he was even sworn in, I think that was probably brilliant on his part because it just laid the barometers of what his first priorities were, right? And that kind of boxed the progressives in. So what they did was they prioritized their priorities that were in that package, right? So they were prioritizing the UI, they were prioritizing the some whatever other provisions that we know about, and yeah, they didn't push that. I mean, even Bernie, he's the chair of the budget committee, he didn't push to put a public option in on this package. So I think it's a mix of Biden sort of getting way ahead of them and the progressives really not they just don't have the numbers or the power in terms of forcing that. Because like, as you mentioned, talked about force of vote. I don't think any of these progressive House members, or anybody in the CPC, I don't think they have that kind of, I don't think they have that will to be that person to potentially sink the Democratic president's first legislative priority. I just don't think they do. So I think that's what you're seeing here. I think you're seeing that power, plus the insurance industry got way ahead of them, I think. They have all this money and they're advertising and all this other stuff. But it does beg the question. It is like we're in the middle of a pandemic and we can't even get the expansion of healthcare on the public level. So it's really odd to me. I don't really. Hopefully that's probably the best I got. I think the Biden administration just got way ahead of them on this, because it'd be different if he got inaugurated. He didn't have his own plan, right? Mm-hmm. He just said, Congress, give me a bill, right? Just give me a bill to address the pandemic, the health care crisis, the public health crisis, all this other stuff. Then maybe there might have been more of a fight. But I think him coming out with his plan and that being the basis of what we're about to see now, I think that's really how the debate was shaped.
Yeah, I think while progressives don't have the numbers, you do have the numbers for certain stuff, and to make noise. You see the noise progressives are making with the minimum wage right now. Now, I don't know if the minimum wage is ultimately going to get included in this package. That's another thing that was left out, was the minimum wage, by the way. But progressives have rallied and they have made it an issue. My feeling is they could have did the same thing with several other policies, including the public option. And the reason why I forced the vote for me was kind of like just window dressing, because at the end, in my opinion, it's about what policies are ultimately going to get passed. Forced to vote was not going to get Medicare for all. It just wasn't. And we already know, for the most part, in the House who support Medicare for all and who don't.
Right.
For me, I didn't even really get like why it has so much momentum to begin with. And if you're just going to do something like that, I thought it would be better to do something like that was actually realistic to get passed.
Right.
A public option, the insurance company would fight against that just as hard.
That's Medicare for all.
Actually campaigned on that. That's one. If you want to get more support, I think on the Ben Dixon show, one of his co-hosts, I forget which one, said, okay, if you want to gain more support, why don't you add reparations with it? And then, more people would have been with it, but a lot of them didn't want to do that.
All right, Marcus. Yeah, Marcus. Yeah, he's the one. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And to me, that was a great point, because reparations at this point have the same chance of getting passed as Medicare for all through the House at this point in time. Neither one of them really have the momentum to get passed through the House, but you could have built up more of a coalition if you would have did that. Maybe something like that would have worked, or it would have had my ear a little bit more. But yeah, ultimately it wasn't going to get passed. So to me, it's puzzling why it has so much momentum to begin with. In the background.
Yeah, no, it's weird. I mean, like, the crazy thing is, if they just stuffed the public option into this bill, but the problem is they wouldn't be able to do it because of the whole budget reconciliation rules. But let's say they do another bill, they're going to have another reconciliation.
Though, because you can argue the public option.
No, No. You can put it, but the problem is they set their cap. They set the number for the budget resolution at 1.9 trillion, right? It would have had to be a little bit bigger for the public option to be included.
Right.
So if they did do a budget resolution of 3 trillion, 4 trillion, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Then boom, you have the public option in there easily. But yeah, no, it is weird how the public option was talked about a year ago, everywhere. Even when Biden was wrapping up the nomination after Super Tuesday and all that stuff, and then boom, there's no talk about it at all.
You know why?
Why is that?
I think it's a combination of things. It's a combination of Biden never really wanted a public option.
No, he never really. Yeah, of course not. Of course not.
Most of these corporate Democrats that said they supported the public option during the presidential race really didn't mean it. That was just something they threw out because they had to have something during election season
to run on. Yeah.
Yep. And of course, they wasn't going to support Medicare for all.
Yeah.
That was the only reason. And I think some progressives are so disappointed in Bernie losing and
just suck the energy. Yeah, suck the energy out. Yeah.
And just like, okay, I'm sick. It's kind of like it's funny because I consider this show and what I do here kind of a bridge and a hybrid, because on YouTube with these channels, you got progressive channels that talk about progressive policies, and you have Black channels that just talk about Black issues, right? I kind of I talk about both, while some of the interests align, a lot of it don't, and there's a lot of tension and seem to be at odds with certain issues. One of the things I see with both, though, with both sides of that I'm on and support, is both sides are sick of half loaves.
Right.
So you got Black Black people that's into politics or even semi into politics, they're not trying to hear about any positive proposals that's not reparations.
Mm-hmm.
It's reparations or nothing. If you're not talking about reparations, I don't want to hear it, basically. Or something close to it. I'm not trying to hear it. And you have some on the left that take in the stance with other issues like Medicare for all. So federalizing Medicaid, I'm not trying to hear that right now. Lowering the Medicaid age, I'm not trying to hear that right now. Fighting for a public option, I'm not trying to hear it right now. Medicare for all or nothing.
Right.
I'm starting to see it with both. And I understand because I'm sick of it too. And we need to fight for these policies. But in the meantime, you got to look at realistic for this short period that we in. And when I say short period, the next 2 years. Because that's what we're looking at. What can we get past in the next 2 years? Right now, with Biden is elected, you can use some of the good stuff he promised or even the half lows to make progress, use it against them, and try to get those passed. And if you don't do that, it's a missed opportunity. That's my feeling on it.
Yeah, I mean that kind of goes into the point that I made before we went live, which is you just said they only have 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if they don't, well, they'll get this bill passed, a COVID bill. And I think they might get an infrastructure bill passed either through reconciliation or through getting 60 votes. They might get 10 Republicans on that. The question is, it's going to be on voting rights and all of their pledges on democracy reforms and things like that. Like the House is going to pass H.R. 1, the For the People Act, so that cleans up some of the money in politics problems. It bans gerrymandering. It does a lot of different stuff. And then you also have the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, which they're going to pass at some point this spring. The question is, when those go to the Senate, sure, you probably have 50 Democrats. All the 50 Democrats probably will vote for those. But you need to get to 60 to pass the filibuster. And if you can't pass the filibuster, those bills will fail.
Yeah.
And what will the Democrats do when those bills fail? That will tell us everything. Because if the Democrats just, they don't want to fight for them, then we'll see in 2022 many states, we're seeing it right now, many state legislatures, red states, some swing states that have Republican legislators, they are passing voter suppression bills out in the open. They are, Georgia is probably the most egregious one I've seen. And I think they just passed it out the House, in their state house. And they ban, they limit, absentee voting. They limit, the drop boxes for absentee voting. They limit Sunday voting. So, if you're in the black church, souls to the polls, they're trying to eliminate that. Then you got, they even banning you to give free food to people in voting lines. I kid you not. Like that, they're being that blatant. And then the Supreme Court right now is hearing 2 cases that would gut the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Yeah. So, completely gut it. The Voting Rights Act was gutted in 2013, but this would probably really destroy the law itself, and you'd really have to pass a new law to fortify it and get it around these conservative Supreme Court and lower court judges. So that's where things are at. So if the Democrats don't, do what they need to do, we could be looking at maybe a decade plus of Republicans in control of the House, and you have gerrymandered districts that are just, I don't know. Plus they mess with the census too. Remember Trump, he messed with the U.S. Census. So when they start drawing these lines later this year, we're going to see how crazy it is. So it's kind of a spooky time, I think, because I think a lot of people that followed things in 2009 and 2010 getting a little bit of, deja vu on some respects. On other respects, this bill that they're about to pass is probably the most popular bill since the minimum wage passed in 2007, I think, just going by the numbers, which is kind of crazy to think about. because this bill has like a almost 70% approval rating.
Right.
So,
and I just want to go back to what you was talking about with the Voting Rights Act. They passed something to strip away at the 1965 Voting Rights Act at least once a decade. It happened in the 2000s. I believe it was 2006.
Oh, 6, yep.
Yep. Yeah, I believe that was like Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act with federal observation, and basically let the states start making their own voting laws, especially the southern states that was under federal review. It kind of just killed that. That's when all these voter ID laws
just exploded. Yeah.
Yep. And it's somebody that I think we need to talk about more often. We probably need to do a series on, because it's very important. Lee Atwater. He admitted early 80s that they didn't want people voting. And he was the chair of the Republican National Convention. So he just wasn't some random person. And again, this is my frustration with the media. They act like this stuff doesn't exist. The GOP and conservatives told us that they didn't want a lot of people voting. Why? Because they know the more people vote, the more likely it is that they will lose. So they want to suppress the vote. They want to do everything they can to suppress the vote. I mean, that's how they had in the good old days when they had the grandfather clause, where you couldn't vote unless your grandfather voted, which in those days, your grandfather probably was pressed for voting, probably couldn't vote. Of course you couldn't do it. Right. That's why they had the literacy test. And the literacy test wasn't whether you could read or not. It was whether you could recite the whole Constitution without missing a word.
Right.
They wasn't able to do that. Or they had polling taxes.
Yeah, they're about to do everything just short of a poll tax, it seems like, with the moves that they're making all over the country.
Yeah. So this is not new.
Yeah.
They act like, it seemed like the media, they want to have this narrative of, neutrality. This side says this, this side says that, but nobody is really bad. No, that's not true. Being neutral does not apply. You're not being neutral if you're ignoring facts.
Facts, yeah.
Fact is, GOP then told us that they didn't want us to vote. They want to limit the voting population so they can maintain power. They told you that they did the Southern strategy. They said, Lee Atwater again, head of the RNC, told you exactly how they did the Southern strategy, how they won't actually say black, but they can use these dog whistles. They admitted this. And then they act like you crazy if you say what they doing is racist when we going straight out of the playbook that they said that they had.
Right.
So that's one thing. So another thing that is missing from this bill is baby bonds. No, like I heard, it's like no momentum. The only people I didn't heard talk about baby bonds is Cory Booker and Presley and Representative Ayanna Presley. Other than that, no mention. And again, that will help ease the racial wealth gap. We did something on baby bonds not too long ago. I'm going to clip that and put it on the channel as well. But yeah, no momentum with that. What do you think happened with that? And why do you think nobody is talking about that, about baby bonds right now? And do you think that Ayanna Presley and Cory Booker could have did more to get attention for this?
I think they could have did more, but I think, again, it kind of goes back to when we talked about the public option too. I think it just couldn't make it into the bill for some reason or another. I mean, they probably were not ahead of it because Biden was ahead of them on his package. It looked like before. I mean, they introduced it in this Congress, but I don't know. It's I don't know. I just don't think maybe there might need to be a little bit more organizing around it. Because I think like right now, like with, for example, student debt, right? Like there's no student debt cancellation in this bill, right?
Right.
But obviously, all these groups are still pressuring.
Well, Biden can do that with an executive order, though.
Exactly. So there's still, but like there's these groups and they're all these representatives that still want to, they're still trying to pressure Biden on that. But I can see, that there's an organizational push. I don't think Presley or Booker had that on the baby bonds. I think they had to, probably, get more exposure to it, I guess, maybe more attention to it. But yeah, it sucks that it didn't make it into this bill because like it would have been a good companion to the child tax credit. The issue, I wonder if they did get it in there, how long would it be for the first 18 years? Would they only have it for? That's the other problem about it, about them not having it in there. So, but yeah, your guess is as good as mine. Those are the reasons I'm thinking.
Yeah, they gotta push this policy better than what they've been pushing it because it's important. And I definitely like Ayanna Preston. Definitely like her. Cory Booker, I like some of the stuff he do.
Right.
So other stuff, corporate interest, but I do like the baby bond proposal. I like the Justice for Black farmers. I do like that, but that absolutely have no momentum right now. And just the other sad thing about the Justice for Black farmers bill, it actually had more momentum under the Trump administration than it does right now. Bill Sack being agricultural secretary was terrible. And the fact that he got confirmed overwhelmingly, and I believe Booker voted for him as well. I'm like, did you talk to him? Is he going to support that bill or not? Hopefully he got reassurances that Bill Sack will support the bill, but I'm highly skeptical of that. So it's just a lot of that. And everybody been talking about is minimum wage. How it wasn't included in the bill, or I think the House version, it was actually included in the House version. Excuse me.
It was in the House version.
Yeah,
it won't be on the Senate version.
We don't think.
Yeah, I mean, well, Bernie's forcing a vote on an amendment on the Raise the Wage Act. So I guess we'll see a floor vote of who supports a $15 minimum wage,
right?
During this process, but yeah, it ultimately is not going to get it into this bill. If the Democrats, what they should do is put that joint on the floor, and and then see what happens, because there are Republicans that do want to raise the minimum wage, but they want to attach some crazy shit to it.
Now, I don't think it's going to make it into the bill either, but I'm not going to say 100%. Because this has been one of the more impressive pressuring campaigns, because they've been trying. They didn't even want us talking about $15 minimum wage at this point right now. They thought having the Senate parliamentarian say that it couldn't be in the bill, that was their past.
That was it. Yeah.
They thought they could, but no, they actually get in questions from mainstream media about it too.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing, is because the Biden administration, I don't think they realize that people know the power they have, right? Yep. They know the power of what the vice president has. They know Kamala Harris can overrule the parliamentarian because she is the president of the Senate. Yep. Okay, so she sits in that chair. She presides over when that bill is being passed, right? So she can waive that joint, and they're just scared because if she did do that, that Manchin and Sinema would vote against the bill and sink it. I don't think they have the balls to do it, in my opinion. But that's the
Biden. Even think that's the reason they're scared of it. I think the Biden administration don't run it because They've been talking to the Chamber of Commerce.
That's
That's fine.
true. The Chamber of Commerce does have a seat at the table in the Biden administration. That's for sure.
A lot of special interest does.
A lot, yeah. I mean, he had
Insurance companies does.
yeah, oh yeah, he had meetings with those CEOs like what a couple of weeks ago at the White House. A bunch of them. Jamie Dimon is there. All these other fools are there.
Yep.
So they got a lot of. That's the problem with the corporate Democrat. You have so many mouths to feed once you get into power because of all the people that gave you all that corporate cash and all that stuff. So
yeah, it's not. Yeah, and we're about to end this in a second. So that's basically the thought on the COVID bill, what we have so far. It's not a terrible bill, but
not at all.
it
No,
needs to be more. It's not
adequate enough, but
right.
it's like honestly, it's like something that if the Democrats had control last year when let's say the pandemic hit, like that would be a good first bill, right? But then you would have subsequent bills to build off of that, and then you're able to make some of this stuff permanent. You're able to put new, stuff that we've been talking about. Like that's really how I view this bill. Like it's good. It's going to be popular. People are going to have money in their pocket that didn't have money before. However, with our administrative system, our welfare state, or lack thereof, then you're going to have all these blind spots. But you're going to see poverty be reduced,
Right.
Through this initiative.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. It's I think for me, my question is what's going to be the follow up? What's going to be next on the next reconciliation bill? What's going to pass with 60 votes?
Right.
Stuff like that. So
yeah, and I'm worried about the housing market once the eviction moratorium is up.
Oh, that's another big one. Yeah,
that's a looming disaster.
Commercial real estate's going to be destroyed, I think, very short. I think this summer you're going to see a huge crash in commercial real estate. I don't know how that will affect the residential markets, but I don't think the Federal Reserve is going to increase interest rates. But if they do increase interest rates at any point in the next year, you'll see a massive correction.
Listen, you have Best Buy announcing that they closing stores.
Yep.
A lot of businesses is in trouble right now.
Yeah.
Like you said, commercially, and not to mention residential markets where it goes two ways, where you have renters that can't pay their rent, but you also have landlords. I'm not just talking about like the giant
individuals,
property management companies, not like that, but individual landlords, because their tenants can't pay rent, they can't pay mortgage.
Yep, the cycle.
So it could be a lot of foreclosures coming up, which will hurt the housing market. And the housing market was one of the main catalysts in the 2008 crash. So and on top of that, during Trump 4 years, they deregulated the market dramatically, which already wasn't regulated enough. I mean, at least you had Dodd-Frank, which wasn't enough, but it was something. It was better than what we had. But with the Trump administration deregulation, I don't know. I'm hoping for the best, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's another ticking time bomb. The other thing is, even during the pandemic, you've seen also in a lot of markets, a lot of demand and not a lot of supply for housing. So you have some of this upper class folks buying houses, driving the price up as well because the interest rates are so low. So, but the thing is, like if you're thinking about buying a house right now, you also have to take into account, well, if you buy it at the price it is right now, what if the interest rates go up and then you become underwater in a couple of years?
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that people I know are trying to weigh right now, because it's a delicate balancing act in these times. I think the perfect time to buy a house, in my opinion, just in my short experience, is probably 6, 7, 8 years ago. in the aftermath of '08, when the market was much more depressed, especially in certain areas of the country.
Mhm.
Like I'm in PG County, Maryland, majority black county, a lot of affluent black people that live out here, but a lot of them, they were underwater in their house, and a lot of them, they lost their house through foreclosures and short sales, and that kept the market depressed in an area like that, even though it was so close to DC. So you had opportunities there, but now you see an interesting dynamic happening with cities and suburbs. A lot of more people are moving out to suburbs. Cities, you're seeing a drop in real estate, and a drop in like rents as well. But how that recovers, we don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens post COVID, but that's another flashpoint.
And I know real estate agents are still doing steering, which is illegal. But they're still doing steering. I know some of you don't know what steering is. It's basically where you're not showing all property values. You basically steering and directing your client in certain directions in certain neighborhoods.
Right.
So you don't see as much blockbusting anymore, but blockbusting is something similar where they announced that certain group is moving to the neighborhood, and then you get the people in the house to start selling. That's basically blockbusting, but steering is definitely still going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So all right, we about to get on out of here. I'll be back tomorrow with Polly with us, with the homie Heen. I definitely got to talk about buying foreign policy.
That's a whole there's a lot to dig in there already, and it's only been a month.
Faster.
but I think maybe we'll see what happens. It's not good. It's not good.
Funny? One of the reasons, and I did a video on this, that I decided to vote for Biden, even though I despise him, was COVID, which his COVID response is not, but it's 10 times better than Trump's.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah.
So that alone was a good enough reason to vote for Biden over Trump. But another reason was not that I thought Biden was going to have a good foreign policy, but I thought at least he'll get back into the Iran nuclear deal. Why not? It was passed under the Obama administration.
Right.
Like, so silly me, assuming, okay, it was passed under the Obama administration. Of course, Biden would get back into it, but I thought about it, I'm like, not everybody in the Obama administration agreed on foreign policy. Biden might have been one of those ones that wasn't too sure about the deal. Who knows? But instead of just joining back into the Iran nuclear deal, like he should have, he doing all this nonsense. He doing strikes in Syria, raising tensions with Iran. Now Iran said they don't even want to talk about the nuclear deal anymore. And I'll explain later. I always try to explain how foreign policy relates to what we're doing now, how it affects our life. I'm going to get into that definitely, but
for sure,
no talks on easing relations with Cuba again, like Obama did, and that's why I always I think it's not me and you. I think it might be me and him always argue that Biden might be a little bit more progressive. His administration might be a little bit more progressive than Obama. I say I don't see it. I don't see it at all.
I think you'll see it more in some domestic areas, but on foreign policy, it just seems like it'll just be more, neo, the whole, not neoliberal. I mean, obviously neoliberal, but the whole responsibility to protect ideology, the liberal interventionist ideology, like he has a lot of those people there. But the crazy thing is, he has, Ambassador Wendy Sherman as one of his advisors on arms control. She was the lead negotiator on the Iran deal. So I'm like, she supports getting back in the deal. She's talked about it. She's talked about how do you go back to the deal without have some sanctions relief, right? Like, how do you show good faith? She's talked about that, but yet the administration's not doing it, and that's why I didn't like Blinken coming in as Secretary of State, because Blinken has supported a lot of these wars, even against Biden's wishes. Like Blinken supported Libya. He supported, Syria. Biden, to his credit, was against the Libyan intervention. Like
Yeah.
he's, and a couple of other things that he disagreed with Obama on. So it's such a weird thing. It's crazy. But the good thing is, I think the fact that I saw quite a few members of Congress and a few senators, even like Tim Kaine, calling out Biden, saying, "What the hell are you doing? You're without coming to us in Congress." That's better. It's not enough, but
Right.
at
I
least it's
think the
better.
strongest statement was probably by Ro Khanna.
Ro Khanna had a good statement. Yeah, Bernie had a good statement. Tim Kaine's statement surprised me. I was like surprised that he actually was gonna call
to
him out.
me, Tim Kaine could be the mascot for a corporate Democrat.
Right, exactly.
I don't know who him or the other senator for Virginia,
Mark Warner. Mark Warner is way more corporate. Mark Warner is so rich, man. Like he got more money than he knows what to do with. So he's definitely more on the right wing than Tim Kaine.
But all right, yeah, we gonna get into that. But thanks for joining us. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, share it. Who breaks down issues like us? Come on. Come pod with us, with the pod.
Yes, sir.
With the pod guide and 12/23. I don't know what that means, but hey.
It's my born day. My born day, bro.
Okay, no doubt. Happy belated. A few months.
All right. A couple months late, but it's all right.
All right.
All right, man. Peace.